is thinking about or looking at. Mark, Maasai, and Leila.
I'm surprised Mark is still awake.
Right?
What do you have for us? We did lose you a couple. I'm sure Mark is asking you what I've said.
Yes.
What is happening at the Tallying Center?
Well, we're a couple of night owls here at the Bomas of Kenya, Mark, Maasai, and myself. And you are asking what he's looking at, and he's looking at the portal where the forms 34A have been posted on the portal, and then the figure now stands at 99.94%. Mark, Ben wants to find out why you're still here, but looking at the seriousness, the severity of how everyone is so serious.
I don't know if Eric is getting that shot of the moment of snooze that a gentleman in the green is getting. But anyway, it's understandable. Long hours, the paperwork that they have to go through, and right in the middle there, people trying to get a moment of warmth as well. I don't know if we have access because the media is just on the right here and kind of restricted, and this is where even competition doesn't really count, because you kind of have to. I'm not saying we're keeping each other warm, but just the other few minutes I was with Rita Tinina, and she's quite warm, so I'm not saying we cuddled, but anyway, we were trying to keep warm. But the thing that I've marked here, and you notice, is the body language from the different agents and representatives of the main parties. We're talking about the main parties here, and there seems to be confidence. And everyone is saying they have their numbers, even as the tabulation here has really kick-started since the forms have been delivered physically. They're talking about the confidence that is there. And I'm glad to see Davis Chirchir on the left here, and you confirmed earlier. There were reports of his kidnapped. He's looking very comfortable, sipping some of his coffee right there. He is safe. People are talking about his kidnapping, and it's quite sensitive at this moment to talk about people disappearing, and especially if they're close to one of the main front runners. And it was explained earlier when we spoke to Gladys Bosch-Cholet that they were involved in a bit of an accident, and their phones had been taken momentarily as there was an intervention to help them, and they're safe, and there's no cause for alarm in that regard. But we are also looking at the numbers here in terms of those people who we really should be keen about, and that's the returning officers. And I believe we were told it's a number of about 80 who are here. And if we add it up, I think maybe by morning, when people wake up Friday morning, in the next few hours, then probably we will have gone up to 100 or beyond constituencies. But it's not just a straightforward thing. They have to go through a process, as you've explained over and over again since this started. And so it's going to be long hours for people. And I'm still here, Ben is asking, because I had a little bit too much coffee. And I don't know what to do with this energy. So, why not observe? This is history being made, because this is a first of, the public portal being made available to all. There's lessons to draw from that, because they're the parties and the main parties who say they have the capacity to call this in terms of how the result is, or what the direction it's taking. But we've gone through a substantial amount of the polling stations in terms of the Form 34As that have been posted, and people are actually doing the projections of by tomorrow, same time like this, it'll be easy to say this is going this way or that way. But again, the dais or the podium up there behind us is where the final declaration will be made. And I don't know if Chibukati is catching a snooze, but they're at the back room. They call it the situation room. I don't think we can expect another update in the next few, because I'm sure they'd want to get a substantial number of, the paperwork gone through, and that they'll have something to report. He just gave us, was it 5 plus the first one, so that's like 6 constituencies, and out of the 290, still have a lot. The mathematics is not adding up at the moment, but yeah, the 290, the 6 from 290 is still a lot.
It's interesting that you say that, and I draw parallels with how most of us who've watched how the Americans do the elections and how the individual newsrooms can do their individual tallies and make a call and press and say this media house projects that this particular candidate will be winning a certain state, in this Kenyan context, a certain county, and even the presidential election. And many are looking into how the IEBC and how the media this time around have been given that opportunity to tabulate the numbers and to just to give them slowly as they're coming in. Wafula Chebukati earlier in the day saying that he's finding it quite interesting that the media isn't really catching up with what the IEBC is doing. However, he came out critically to warn the media in terms of how the disparities of the figures and how much tension they are creating within the Kenyan audiences within here and also in the diaspora where they are voting. And I'm calling it the 291st constituency because it will play a key role in how the next president will be called. Do you feel that we need to have, like they say in Swahili, akamkutano with ourselves and ask ourselves critical questions in how this has been rendered? He says he's not going to say that stop, but he's just warning that make sure that your data is correlating with what is appearing on the Form 34As.
And it depends on which way you look at it, because some people say without the results all these hours on after the closing of the stations, the polling stations, there would have been more anxiety if there wouldn't have been any information as to the direction of the results and the vote, especially the presidential result, which is a first main focus for many. And so I believe it's agreeable across the board that the media has played its role in that. It has kept people, it has fed information, and it's not just information manufactured by the different media houses, it's information that is available to the public. And I don't know if it's credit to IEBC, if it's their wisdom, or if this is just good coincidence that it is actually working in many ways to their advantage, in the sense they keep speaking about the finality of what is on the portal, the Form 34As and what has been declared. And that then can only be disputed if you have any evidence to the contrary in court. So as you can see, the results building up from the same source, and we come and announce it. It's almost like preparing people's minds in terms of there won't be quite a big shock. But there is also consensus in that we need a certain methodology, agreed criteria to work on this. And initially, excuse me, there was discussion about having partnership in this, same way we do presidential debates. And in many ways, there's advantages of that, because we can all put our numbers together, our resources together, human resource and otherwise technical resource, know-how, to be able to come to a firm, a faster way of tabulating this. But not just for the media. We've seen how it's being used or misused by the political class, and that in itself really is whipping up emotions, because people who are followers of either side will have their positions on the results that are being declared by the various political representatives. And so yes, tutajita kamkutano ni kimkutano, itakuwa kubwa. And I believe there's, this, as I was talking to one of our colleagues, is one for the history books. The experience of tallying these numbers this time round, a first for us. There's many pros, but there's cons to cancel for the future reference. But I believe by and large we have been doing our job in informing the nation, and it's unfortunate that it's been used to make it look like one station is for the other party, and it's granted this is sensitive times, the numbers are sensitive, especially for what they represent, but lessons to learn from it. But a bit of pat on our backs for what you've been able to achieve, given the Herculean task. And the main parties that claim that they have the capacity tell you this is a great undertaking. And given what we've gotten to, and I believe with the Nation platform with over 41,000 polling stations, that is quite commendable. But we'll have to review this and learn from this experience and grow.
Well, Ben, those are just some of our sentiments as scribes or broadcasters here at the Bomas of Kenya. I don't know if you're talking to your panel about the question of propaganda that has played a critical role pre, during, and post this election, and even with the tallying of those results, propaganda is also playing another critical role. But away from that, majorly what we'll be keeping an eye on is not just the snoozing gentleman before we snooze ourselves, is how the intensity of the tables across this floor is ongoing. This may go on until later tomorrow evening, when Wafula Chebukati is expected to make much more announcements going forward. So Ben, before I take it back to you, we are hoping that within the break of dawn, maybe he will begin now giving us those figures as fast as possible. He's given us 6 already. Like Mark said, 80 returning officers are within the precincts of the Bomas of Kenya. The process, we've been able to take you through it. Some of them just taking a breather and sleeping in as they wait in line to see what will happen next. But for those of us who are night owls, we take it back to you. We snooze a bit, and maybe we can see you in the wee hours of the morning. In Swahili, they call it Jogo la Kwanza, when we can touch base with you and just give you feedback on what's going on here at Uchaguzi Center, Ben.
And Leila, very quickly, before, again, you snooze out, again, Mark says he has a lot more energy. But again, earlier on when Chebukati was talking, he mentioned that at the moment, there are only 80 returning officers, right, at the Bomas. And of course, he talked about an aspect of they need to add more. But some might argue and say, I mean, it has been a whole day and probably another day, but we only have 6. Counters, if that's the thing, constituencies rather, that have again fully submitted and they're verified their form 34Bs. So again, adding more officers, and of course, in your own calculation, again, how much of an impact will this make? Because again, we've waited for like a day and a few hours on top, but we only have 6 constituencies that have verified their form 34Bs.
Well, I can understand that there's some sort of frustration in how fast or slow the process begins for each returning officer, because the number of papers they are carrying, depending on how large the constituency is, the number of polling stations or the number of wards particularly that are in that constituency, and the size in terms of population, then it becomes quite difficult, taking anything between 25 minutes to an hour or so, and that's why the process is really taking a little bit longer than would have expected. Chebukati himself acknowledging that the process is taking much slower than they had anticipated, and also promising that they will increase the number of tables that you're seeing on the floor. He said maybe 4 or 5 will be added just to boost the numbers that you're seeing on the floor here. And he also says that none of them will be maybe going home tonight until they realize that they have hit.
All right, thank you.
Oh, they're back. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Leila. We could not get what you said in a moment, but it's all good. So again, so you were talking about, again, this depends on, again, the number of constituencies in different